last video I said we should start making full-scale aircraft and spacecraft, and you're probably wondering how I'm actually planning on making those things happen. First I'll talk about the spacecraft. For that we simply have got to do what San Luis Obispo has already done. And it turns out that we've already started doing this. I found out just the other day that we're working on a proposal already for a grant. This actually brings up a point from my previous video when I talk about making this information a little bit more available. I mean, it's out there, it isn't hidden, but it isn't promoted either. Knowing what senior projects are being worked on now will influence whether you want to take their work further or start a new project. Also, being able to easily find out what projects are being worked on now will keep you from suggesting that we start doing things that we have already started doing. I think the AIAA should offer them what help we can, and if they don't succeed, we should keep trying and come up with a new proposal. But whatever we propose, if it goes through and we get a grant, we get the funding, and that gets the ball rolling. But now on to the aircraft. I want to start by talking about the Kolditz glider. During World War II, the Germans converted Kolditz Castle into a maximum security prison for officers from countries like Britain and France. The British POWs found a room that had been overlooked by German guards, and so they built a false wall and they gave themselves about 8 feet to work with. They designed a glider and built it out of bedboards and other stolen wood. They used sleeping bags for the skin, and they doped the fabric with boiled gruel. The idea was that as the war drew to a close, they would send out 2 guys on this glider, and they would tell the Allies not to shell the castle, which would still be filled with POWs. The war had ended before they had a chance to fly it. They had finished it, but were waiting for good weather to fly in. A replica of it has been flown more recently, though. If they can manage that in a Nazi prison with a few bedboards, I think we can manage building an aircraft now. We've actually won AIAA design awards in the past for aircraft design. I also found out recently that at least one full-scale aircraft has been built at Cal Poly Pomona before. I believe it was during the 1960s. I'm not sure exactly when they did this, but they built a kit plane, a Baby Ace. After they finished building it, I don't know if they flew it, but they donated it to the Air Scouts. They used to be a branch of the Boy Scouts, and I have no idea what its whereabouts are now, if it exists at all still. And also, several students are pilots, so that means we can design aircraft, we can build aircraft, and we can fly aircraft, okay? I just want to see us do it to the same aircraft. Everyone I've talked to about this seems to think that actually designing and building an aircraft aren't the major hurdles to building an aircraft here. They think that it's liabilities and that sort of stuff. And so there are 3 basic approaches that I see to getting around this issue. The first approach would just be to do everything at the school, and this would require us to take on the whole liability thing head on. And you can just buy liability insurance for aircraft like these through the AIAA. They're the Experimental Aircraft Association. However, I see this path sort of probably meeting the most resistance from the school itself, because all liability really means is responsibility, and when they say liability is a problem, that means they don't want to be responsible if anything bad happens. The second way of doing it would be kind of like the way they did it before. We design it on campus, we build it on campus, but when it comes time to fly it, we could donate it to the AIAA, and the AIAA would go fly it. And so it wouldn't be the school's responsibility, it wouldn't be their liability. However, the AIAA is associated with the school, so that might be a problem there. However, to get around that, we could create an organization that would essentially just be a shadow to the AIAA, and donate it to that organization. The third option, though, I think is the most likely one for success. However, it does create what will probably be some inconveniences for us. I've spoken to some instructors before about the whole senior design thing, and one of the interesting things I learned is that, say you have an internship at Northrop Grumman and that you're doing some work that is original in some way, you're doing some actual design, you can make that your senior project, and so it doesn't need to be associated with the school. You could so if you were designing an aircraft and building an aircraft and flying it, but for Northrop Grumman, it wouldn't be a problem because it would be Northrop Grumman's risk, not the school's. So in the same light, if we went out ourselves and built an aircraft, whether as an organization like the AIAA or as individuals, if we're doing it, not the school, it's our risk, and so that gets rid of the liability issues, and we can use that as the senior design, in the same way that your internship at Northrop Grumman would work. However, that means that we would have to do it all independently of the school, and that's the inconveniences I meant earlier. We'd have to find a place to do it, someone's garage, and the tools we'd have to get a hold of ourselves, and so that can be a problem. But depending on how you've designed the aircraft to be built, you can get around that. Certainly, there are a large number of kit aircraft that are designed to be built with simple hand tools, because most kits are made for people building them in garages, not machine shops. So once we've picked which option we think will work best, where do we go from there? I think that since the process from conceptual design, detailed design to actual construction of an aircraft, that may take several generations of student projects to actually do that. And I think that since the difficult issue is this whole liability thing and getting around those obstacles, we should skip the wait time that it would take to design the aircraft and just jump straight to solving the liability issue without risking the effort and hope put into designing an aircraft we couldn't build. So what we can do is, if we take a kit plane and we start building it now and try to get it done by the end of next year, we can set the precedent for building and flying aircraft. We can set the framework for allowing us to do that. And so the next step after that would be to design our own aircraft and build that. I'm running out of time, but I do have more plans and more details to come. But if you want to hear what those are, you'll just have to vote for me. I can't guarantee that we'll succeed, but I can guarantee we can try like hell.